You have to remember why it's important to you, and you have to keep going. That's really what I think it comes down to, is the why. If you want to maintain momentum, you got to know why you're doing something and why it's important to you, what you're going to get from it. So otherwise, you're just going to be going through your day, right? And nothing's going to change. What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the podcast. I want to first address, last episode was terrible with the audio quality. I had some, technical difficulties, and I made mistakes, and it happens. But anyways, that's fixed this time, so hopefully the sound is a little bit better. And I want to stay with the theme that I've been talking about the past, I would say, few weeks. And a lot of that has to do with goal setting and achieving new things that you're trying to do, right? You want to become a different person in 2024. You want to set a new story about the person that you are and have a little bit more confidence in the things that you do. And that's good. You should have goals. This episode actually came out from an idea that I had with my brother. He was talking to me. We were on the phone the other day, and he was just mentioning, I think I have some honest feedback for you. And sorry, I'm just getting over being sick, and so I'll probably be clearing my throat a lot, but I'll hopefully do it a little quiet. So anyways, I'm talking to my brother, and he's like, you know what? I love what you talk about. All your topics are important. The only thing is, I think that a lot of people might not relate because not everyone is as disciplined as you. And I think there's some truth to that. There is a little bit of, I do think that I am a more disciplined person than a lot of people are. And that's just because it's taken years and years to become like that. It's not something that happened to me overnight. I want to start this podcast off by just mentioning a quote, and it'll make sense as we talk about this stuff today, but it's this quote from C.S. Lewis. And he says, "The gates of hell are locked from the inside." And for me, it's a very powerful quote because there's a lot to it. The gates of hell are locked from the inside. So what does that mean? Well, for me, hell is not seeing what, you can reach, or not trying to push yourself beyond your limits to see what's out there for you. It's not living your fullest. It's not living up to who you can become and what you should try and do in your life, or what excites you, what gets you interested. Hell is not exploring that. It's doing the same thing every single day. It's, getting caught up in the routine of things. That's hell to me. And I think that's a little bit of what C.S. Lewis was talking about. He was also referring to more of the biblical sense. He says hell is locked from the inside because all you have to do is repent and come into Christ. And so that's what he was saying there in with his quote. But I mean, I think we can take the same principle and apply it to what I just said. If you're not trying to see who you can become, then you're living a life that is not what it can be. And that's hell. I hate to say it. But I want to talk about maintaining momentum and sticking to something, trying to push yourself beyond the limits, and starting off with just a personal story. I want to relate to you guys a little bit more. And like my brother was saying, sometimes my stories just don't relate. I'm talking about training for marathons and all these things, and I don't expect everyone to train for marathons. So, but I think everyone can kind of relate to this a little bit. So I was never one person to be disciplined, right? I never lived a disciplined lifestyle. I was never the person who was up first thing in the morning, ready to get after the day, ready to start strong, anything like that. That wasn't me. I was the guy that would wake up at 11 o'clock on a Saturday morning after a night out with my friends and just kind of see what the day did, right? Try to get me to stick to a diet at the time. I'd tell you to go pound some sand as I took a sip from my 44-ounce Pepsi. while taking a bite of a chicken verde taquito from QT. So I didn't care about really anything. I was just like out there, hey, I'm going to live my life. Maybe I should eat healthier, but you know what? Who cares? Right? I'd still be that same person today if I didn't decide to make a change at some point in my life. Luckily, I've mentioned this story before, but my friend Drake came up to me and he introduced me to the concept of discipline through talking about like Jocko Willink and all these other people that I admire. But he led me to make that life change that I didn't know I was making by slowly introducing me to these different topics of discipline, how to hold yourself to a high standard, and anything like that. I slowly began to implement small, like just tidbits of discipline back into my life. And what that would look like is maybe is waking up an hour earlier on a Saturday, studying 30 minutes later for school, or trying to find jobs or anything like that. I don't know. Back then I was all over the place with what I was doing, but I would make these small changes to my day, make them a little bit more structured, hold myself accountable, and that was that. Sure, I would have, times when I would miss a week in the gym. I wasn't perfect on my diet, and I'm still not. That's true. I would push things off until I needed to do them, like at the very last minute, because I wanted to feel comfortable, right? That's the thing, is like we do these things to ourselves. We have these habits. We have these tendencies because we want to live a comfortable lifestyle. And I don't think that's necessarily bad. It's just knowing how to balance that and knowing when it's becoming a distraction rather than something that is like, take 5 minutes to go on TikTok and just breathe a little, There's balance in all these things. And discipline has the same principle. Like you need to balance discipline. But if you're not taking actionable steps to become disciplined and maintain momentum in achieving your dreams, your goals, or just becoming a new person, then it's going to be tough. Being disciplined takes time, and implementing it into your life takes even longer. The key, though, is to not lose that momentum that comes with the trying to achieve your dreams, because you need to understand why you were doing them and the reason that you decided to challenge yourself in the first place. You need to maintain that perspective. And I think that's one thing that really helped me too, is maintaining perspective, realizing, hey, I have a whole life ahead of me. I have this goal that I have for myself, and I know I'm going to mess up along the way, but I can get there. I know it's just going to take time. It's having that kind of perspective. And it's something that I've tried implementing into my life a little bit with the goals that I do have for myself. And it's been helpful. Like, I know every day is not going to be the best day. Like, there's going to be days when I hate training, because that's true. There are days when I don't want to train. My legs are sore. I'm hurting, but I made a commitment to, push my limits, and I have a goal of running a sub 3. So I don't care. Like, I have to get up and put my shoes on, lace up, and go to the gym and work out, because ultimately I know, sorry about this, guys. Ultimately, I know that goal that I have in front of me is more important to me than missing a day or staying in bed a little bit longer. I'm really sorry. I'll try and edit these out. Like, the other thing too is, like, when you do maintain perspective, when you think about the bigger goal, the long-term goal, it's also important to have like milestones to hold yourself to. So an example of this is like when I started eating healthier and I started eating more clean, a little bit more focused on like building my physique, I would have a weekly cheat day, because like I still wanted those foods. I desired them. And so it was easy for me to stick to my diet during the week and hold myself accountable. If I knew like on Sunday, then boom, I can go have a pizza, or I can go eat a cheesecake. I could eat whatever I really wanted to because I didn't have any rules. And so for you, it might be like, hey, I want to get into the gym 5 times a week, so I can enjoy the weekend, take a 2-day break. So, you hold yourself to those little goals, but these small landmarks you can look to can help with this perspective in ultimately staying motivated to reaching your goals. You've heard it said before, but motivation doesn't last. and discipline's the only thing that can keep you going. And I think that's real. But I don't want to disregard the importance of motivation too, because you need to find ways that you can always motivate yourself to keep going. What's going to keep you on the path? It's a question that you need to ask yourself is like, hey, why am I doing this? What's important to me? A couple of podcasts ago, I talked about integrity and holding yourself to a high standard. And I think a lot of that comes down to the reason why you want to do it. You have to figure out, okay, well, if I make this small life change, then I can see my life improving. I can see it getting better. So what do I have to do to make that change? What steps do I need to make? There's going to be days when you don't want to. And I want to talk about that for a second before we go into the importance of motivation. And then I have a few strategies I want to talk about as well. But there's going to be days that you don't want to do what you know you need to. It happens to me more than you think. I know people look at me like my brother's like, everyone's not as disciplined as you. Or people look at me as some disciplined person, and I appreciate that, but that's not the case all the time. Like I'm a human. I slip up sometimes on my diets or goals or whatever. But I know that there's power in consistency, and that if I just get back on the train and realize, hey, I could be better the next day, that's what kind of helps. You got to be consistent. But anyways, that power of consistency, I think, also helps on those days when you don't want to do what you need to. Like if you're someone who wants to get in the gym, maybe it's a daily goal. Maybe you have a daily goal and you've been doing it pretty good, but you missed 2 days. The best thing that you can do is just get right back to it. Get into your routine again and start making that part of your life. I don't really like Tony Robbins that much, but he did have this good thing that he said the other day that I actually heard on Theo Vaughn's podcast of all. So it's kind of funny, but he was saying like, you have to start identifying as a person that is whatever you're trying to achieve, right? So if it's someone who goes to the gym, then guess what? You're a gym goer. You're someone who goes to the gym. You identify as that person. And so on those days that you mess up, you're like, dang it, I'm someone who goes to the gym. I better get back on my routine tomorrow because I go to the gym every day. That's me. And you start identifying as that, then I think it kind of helps. Like, it sounds weird. I identify as a podcaster. And because of that, like, I'm always trying to learn. I'm trying to get better. I'm trying to improve my production skills and all these other things that I'm trying to accomplish. And, because I identify as that, I'm constantly looking. And so if you're someone who wants to become a runner, then maybe you'll start being more aware of like running articles. You'll start learning more from like Instagram people who are posting good content out there, and you'll identify as a runner and do what runners do. Start learning. That helps too on those days that you just don't feel like you want to do it. I've talked about Jocko a lot on this. And he has this really good clip where his podcast host, Echo Charles, asks him, he goes, what do you do on those days when you don't want to get out of bed, when you don't want to do anything? And Jocko goes, those days. He gets in his big Jocko voice. And he pretty much just says, like, you just have to go through the motions. You have to remember why it's important to you, and you have to keep going. That's really what I think it comes down to is the why. If you want to maintain momentum, you got to know why you're doing something and why it's important to you, what you're going to get from it. So otherwise, you're just going to be going through your day, right? And nothing's going to change. But I think it's important to really identify that, write it down, take some time to go on a walk and figure out what goals you want and what's going to keep you accountable to them, and also maintain that consistency. Like, what's it going to be for you? How are you going to change? Take time to understand that, because once you don't rush this part. the part of you being honest with yourself and figuring out, okay, I have this goal of maybe it's quitting smoking. Okay, if I want to do that, what do I need to do? I'm going to start with 3 less cigarettes a day. I don't know. I don't smoke, so you tell me what the number would be. But like you're going to have to plan it out. You're going to have to really get honest with yourself and be like, if it's healthy foods, like you're trying to eat healthier, okay. I know I need to eat healthier foods. I know I need to maybe stick to a diet, but I got all these Oreos in the pantry. You got to be honest with yourself and say, you know what? That's not going to be helpful. I'm going to grab those Oreos, throw them away, and move on. Just get them out of the house. But come up with a plan and understand your why. And that'll really help you with that motivation piece. I'm really sorry about this, guys. But there is a critical role I think motivation plays in goal setting and all this. Motivation plays in maintaining consistency and goals. I think it's just it's the driving force behind great accomplishments. It's what drives personal and professional success. Like if you want to take it to that extent too. Motivation helps with persevering. It improves your performance because you're excited and you're trying to get better, right? Promotes personal growth, gives you a better outlook. But it's important to understand that motivation isn't going to be there every day. I talked about that a little bit already, but some strategies to stay motivated, I think for you to like, at least just like consider is first and foremost, you need to set clear and achievable goals. So like I was talking about with the plan that you're going to set, you need to figure out small goals that you can hit and reach and put those into place. And just understand that like the more clear that you can be with goal setting, the easier it's going to be to understand the plan that you need to set in place, set the conditions for you to reach that goal. Along with that, I would say track your progress. And I've mentioned for me, like I'm getting pretty into running, like I'm focusing a lot on my week to week pace, my averages, my distances, everything like that. So I keep a notebook where I just document all this stuff. And it's awesome to see like from 8 weeks ago to where I am now. It's unreal. Like I'm taking huge strides, but I wouldn't recognize that unless I tracked it. And I was very consistent with that process, right? My wife and I do this a lot, this next tip, and that's celebrate the small victories. This today, actually. Ooh, yeah, it's today. We ran 20 miles together, and it was the first time she ever ran 20 miles. She's training for a marathon that we're running in less than a month. And up to this point, she only ran 18. And I was so freaking proud of her because she never ran 20 miles before. She did it in 3 hours and 14 minutes, which for a woman is awesome. Like that's crazy fast. And the whole time, so I finished up in 2.5 hours. And so I'm walking on the treadmill next to her, but I can just see how hard she's working. I can see the grind. I can see it in her face. Like she's sweating. She's putting in the work. Like you can see she's got a little mean mug. Like she's fighting. You could see it. And I knew how hard it was for her. Like as soon as she was done, she like had to catch her breath and she was just telling me, she's like, oh, that was tough, but I did it. Like all these things. And I looked at her today and I was like, hey, we're celebrating you tonight. So whatever you want to do, like we're celebrating you because you hit 20 miles and you never did that before. And that was huge. It's a big milestone. Anyone who runs knows first time you run 20 miles, it's a big deal. It's hard. But the point of it being hard is like, I knew it was going to be hard going into it. Man, I'm really sorry, guys, about my voice. I need like a mint or a cough drop, something like that. Anyways, I'm so sorry. But she knew how hard it was going to be going into it. And I recognized that she was pushing herself. She was fighting. She was giving it her all. And I loved seeing that in her. Like, that's what I mean by celebrating the small victories. This was a big milestone. But in the grand scheme of our race, it's a small victory. It's just another step closer to that 26.2 that we're going to run together. We're going to fight together. And when she crosses that finish line, she crushes it. We're celebrating that too. First time she ever ran a marathon. And I'm going to be so proud. I'm already so proud. She's a beast. But you need to celebrate the small victories. So if you are consistent with your diet for a week, maybe have a cheat day or go grab a meal that you've been craving or missed or something like that. Celebrate this stuff. Because that's one of the best parts of goal setting, I would say, is like you get the opportunity to celebrate where you came from to where you're at now at different points. And it just should boost your confidence and help you stay motivated and maintain that. Okay. Hopefully that's the last one I have to do. The other thing I would say that's just as helpful is surrounding yourself with supportive people. That could be people who have the same goal or the same dream as you. But you need to find people who are going to be your cheerleaders and not going to question you, question your abilities, or anything like that. Those are the people that drag you down and ultimately can lead to negative self-doubt, which we'll talk about in a little bit, and hold you back from reaching your goals. Get those people out of your life. You don't want them in there. The only thing that they're going to do is be jealous when you get there, right? The people that are trying to get you down, they're trying to stop you from seeing what you can do, or they're the ones who are saying, yeah, but running a marathon, that's hard on your body. Like, you don't want to do that. They're saying that because they don't want to do that themselves. And that's the biggest thing I would say is if there are people like that in your life, if you recognize that you have people in your life that are trying to bring you down or who are offering that negativity, then the best thing I would say to do is just like be friends to them, be nice to them, but surround yourself with those people who are going to support you instead. It'll make it way easier to stay motivated. It'll make it much easier to reach your goals because those people probably have similar goals to you, like the ones that you set for yourself. And so you can hold each other accountable. And I would say it just helps with like really helping you discover a strategy and implementing these things into your life so you can reach these and become a person who says they're going to do something and does it. It's important. There's going to be obstacles along the way. I don't want that to be something to gloss over here. And I looked up like common challenges people face in staying motivated, and I found a few. I think they're relevant. A lack of interest, a fear of failure, distractions, procrastinating, self-doubt, and a lack of clear goals. I think those are all very powerful things to destroy your motivation. Like if you don't have a lack of interest in the thing you're doing anymore, then again, it goes down to that why. Why'd you start in the first place if you don't like doing it? The fear of failure can also be, unmotivating at times. It's like, man, I just don't want to mess up in front of all these people. I don't want to let people down or anything like that. Like, maybe I won't go out for a sub 3. The fear of failure can do that to you. Distractions also, I think, we have a tendency just to put off what we know we need to do because we want it comfortable. We want an easy day. We want an easy whatever, right? We want that comfort. We seek that. And so we'll distract ourselves by our phones or tasks like chores. Like for me, I'll be at home and sometimes I'll be working from home and I'm like, hey, I'm going to do my laundry right now. Why not? And I'll just distract myself from the work I know I need to do, which also goes into like procrastinating. Like if you're someone who knows you need to do something, but just doesn't want to, I would say take a look at yourself and ask yourself the question, what would happen if I just did it now? And just see if you can get it done. Don't procrastinate if you can't. It's hard. But self-doubt is something that I think really is a motivation killer, in my opinion. If you start doubting yourself, it's going to be a lot harder to maintain that momentum, maintain that positive self-talk, because really the biggest battle you're going to be fighting every day is with yourself, and how you talk to yourself is very important. But if a little bit of self-doubt creeps in, you got to kill it. You got to believe that you can do it, because otherwise that self-doubt is going to compound. It's like consistency, because you'll start thinking about that all the time. So never doubt yourself. Don't. I tell my wife all the time, I have versions of myself, and one of them is serious Brett. This is serious Brett. Like, don't doubt yourself. If you said you were going to do a goal, if you have you want to reach something that you've never done, and you have your why set out, and it's something that you want to do, then don't doubt yourself, because you can do it. People have done it before. And that's something that you can take into account. Like, if there's other people who have done it before, then you can too. They've just been doing it longer or started earlier than you did. So everyone has that in them. That greatness that is just on the other side of seeing someone's example of what they did and being like, hey, I want to try that for myself. And then sticking to a plan and doing it. Like, that is so good for building your confidence. And it's like what I was talking about with Nick Bear. I always look at him as someone that I kind of like look up to in the world of running, the world of fitness. I really admire his company, all that stuff. Like, he's someone I look up to. And he actually got me interested in running a sub 3. So I owe it to him for getting that idea in my head. So thanks, Nick, if you ever listen to this. But without that example, and without me being like, hey, maybe I can do that, I'm going to try. There hasn't been one day where I've doubted myself. I knew that it was going to be a difficult training plan that I was setting for myself, and it is. Like, I just got my workout for next week, and I have a 22 miler on Saturday, which is the longest training run I've ever had. So I know the road there to get to sub 3 was not going to be easy, but I never doubted myself, and I'm not going to, because I'm going to give it my all. And if something happens to me where I'm not able to reach the time that I allotted for myself, then at least I knew I gave it everything I had. Not one thing of self-doubt's coming in. And I know there's a balance between being cocky and confident. I would say cocky would be me going up to people and saying, I'm running a sub 3 on February 10th. It's going to happen. Watch me. I think that's cocky. Confidence is, I'm showing up race day. I'm going as hard as I can. I know I've put in the work that requires a sub 3, and I know I could do it. And I'm going to. I think that's the difference between being cocky and confident. But I want you to be confident and not let self-doubt come in, because that's dangerous. Never doubt yourself, because that's you have to be honest with yourself. And there's so much power in just achieving these goals. And I think that's why I'm talking about them so much and talking about achievement and trying to push yourself, is because once you start doing that and you learn these lessons and you focus on becoming a better person, then your life will change. It will get better. You will push your limits. You will become someone new. Like, my wife and I talk about this all the time with running. She wasn't a runner until she laced up her shoes and ran. And now, she's killing it. She is running a marathon in less than a month. But just like, there's so much confidence that comes from sticking to goals and achieving greatness. That's what I'm trying to say. And self-doubt is one of the biggest killers in that process. And so talk to yourself like you would talk to a friend. If you're ever doubting yourself, talk to yourself like you would talk to a friend. Say, hey, you know what? You messed up on your diet a couple days in a row. That's fine. Get back on the horse the next day. You can. You'll be fine. You'll get back right to it. How many friends have come to you with a problem and you've said, "Oh yeah, that sucks. Your life is pretty bad right now." No, it's never like that. You would never talk to a friend if they came to you with a problem and just pound them down, right? Like, you wouldn't make their life worse. You wouldn't make them feel worse. You would offer them words of encouragement. You'd say, hey, no, you know what? That sucks, man. I'm sorry you're going through that, but I know you're going to get through it. And so that same principle should apply to you. Like, talk to yourself if you ever struggle with self-doubt, like you talk to a friend. Try and pump yourself up a little bit. That's important. That internal voice is so important. I've mentioned Goggins on this podcast a lot, and he's one of the biggest proponents of an internal voice. Like, you got to talk to yourself like you need it. And Goggins, he's a little bit more extreme like that, but be honest with yourself. Like, don't lie. Like, Jordan Peterson has a rule. He says, never lie, or at least never lie to yourself. Something along those lines. But don't lie to yourself. Don't doubt yourself. Because once that slips in, it's going to be a lot harder to stay motivated. You don't want that. So the last thing I would say is just, it's important to maintain a perspective. And I briefly talked about this, but what I would say is like a broader outlook of a goal or an achievement that you want to do can help with additional motivation in helping with like navigating difficulties that come up along the way. Focusing on the process of becoming who you want to be, I think, is also helpful. Like, going back to the example of someone who wants to eat healthier, like, if you want to, then slowly realize that, like, okay, I have a lot of these habits I've built up over the years. It might take a few years to break them down and get back to where I want to be, but I know I have time. And just maintain that perspective. Set those milestones for yourself. Track your progress. Celebrate the small victories. Find people who have the same goals as you. Surround yourself with them. Never doubt yourself. And I promise you'll be able to start implementing more things into your life to help you become a more disciplined person, to help you become a better person, a more consistent person. Ultimately, the person that you want to become. Ultimately, the person that you'd be proud of. And your life will get better. It will change. And you will see that there's so much more for you out there than you intentionally thought. Because that is true. Everyone has so much out there for them. So what's it going to be for you? What are you going to achieve this year that's going to make a difference in your life? It's going to make you proud. But I appreciate everyone for listening to this episode. I'm so sorry about my voice. Hopefully next week I'll be better. If not, I'll get some cough drops so I don't sound like Kermit the Frog and I don't cough into the microphone a bunch. But anyways, I appreciate everyone for listening. Keep getting after it. Do what you got to do to stay motivated. If you ever have any questions or topics that you'd like me to discuss, any people you'd like me to interview, send them my way. But until that point, everybody, keep getting after it. Talk soon.